Okay, so we don't have a production van, unfortunately. So we are going to be modifying our production vehicle so that we can fit all the equipment, the jib, and a few of the crew members. So we took our first trip down to the salt flats and we were able to have 2 vehicles, but it definitely didn't all fit very well. So we are going to be doing some measurements and trying to see if we can get a nice solid rack system to go on top of the Honda. So this is our little 3D mock-up of it. The idea is to try to provide a way that we can attach our big 25-foot light stand, our C-stand, to go into this section underneath here, and then everything else, our jib sections, our little dolly carts that we're going to be using to carry all the equipment around on the salt flats, will go on top. Okay, Tony, and tell us kind of your position in the company.
Okay. So I came on board with COMV probably about 4 years ago in the position of an accountant. That was my major in college, and so that's what my focus was in helping Weston and the crew. We knew from the beginning that we wanted to make a movie, and the challenge is how do we acquire all the equipment necessary to do that?
Well, I don't know where I put my other tape measure, so this one will have to do.
Probably in the summer of 2014 when we really started putting our focus on acquiring the equipment necessary so that we could do a full feature film. We kind of started out like most everybody, how do we do that? Well, let's go to the bank and ask for a loan. And we all know how that works out. The old saying goes, the bank will give you the money if you can prove that you don't need it. And that's pretty much the truth. That's all they focus on, is limiting their risk. And so after we tried the bank aspect, we started talking to private investors, which, in that arena, they kind of have more of a wider view. They look at the potential. What are the ideas that'll be set into motion, and how will all that come together?
Here in the garage, and also joined by friends. What's up? They're getting ready to record a podcast. And I'm going to make a lot of noise so that it's on their podcast.
That's how we found our success in getting money necessary to buy the major pieces of equipment that we needed, cameras and lenses, all of the really expensive stuff, is getting loans through private investors. And then credit cards that had a 0% APR for a year to 2 years, and moving them around and staying on top of them. The only interest that we've paid is on our actual loan from our private investor. And then along the way, we've built a lot of equipment, bought salvaged pieces of equipment, and built new pieces of equipment out of old equipment so that we could put everything together and actually be on the level that we needed to be.
Our dolly tracks we built ourselves. It ended up costing us about $300 to build 30 feet of dolly track, which normally a 6-foot section of dolly track goes for like $500. And then we repurposed our jib. Our jib wasn't the cheapest jib in the world. We ended up paying about $4,000 for it 5 years ago. And we actually bought a second jib that was a used one by the same exact brand, an older version of it. Bought it for $1,800 3 years ago. Just kind of mixed the two together to create what we now use as our dolly, and then we attached the Ronin unit to it, which then allows us to have a motorized head that is also stabilized.
In terms of actual cost, we're probably somewhere around $70,000. In terms of what we would have had to invest, would definitely be in the 6 figures if we were to just go and buy equipment versus salvaged equipment or make completely on our own.
We realized that we needed on the dolly not just to have the jib set up and have someone pushing it that way. We need to actually have our camera operator on the dolly itself as we're going back and forth. So we are throwing a seat in there. We'll see how it comes together.
I think it's been a pretty great leap of faith, to jump out there and try and do things that all the the big studios are doing, and we're doing it with things that we've built and made for ourselves. You know, it's been a huge lesson in bootstrapping and, you know, making the most of resources that we have, which was very little. And I would say definitely do what you can to build stuff rather than buy all the fancy stuff. You know, it's nice to buy the fancy stuff if you have the money to do that. But if you break it down in your mind and you think about it, there's a lot of that stuff that you can build on your own without having to pay the premium that you're going to pay buying it from someone else. You can set out and do anything you want. Don't think that you are limited. The talent is what really makes it up. As with any piece of equipment, it's only as good as the person operating it. Obviously, you have to put a lot of time in practicing and refining your techniques so that you can use the equipment that you have to its fullest potential.
I'm gonna think of something really cheesy to say. Bing bada bing, watch our thing. And subscribe. Patreon. Okay. Wait.